I think we'll start. I'm sure Mary Lou's on her way here. So can we begin with a roll call?
Yes. Divine,
Yes.
Davis. Here. Thompson. Boyle. Here. Miller.
Here.
Robinson Walker. Here. Stack.
Here.
And Lear is excused.
Good. Moving right along here. We know this early whether there's anybody on Zoom, Turner?
I do, but I don't have, they're not asking to speak today.
Oh, okay. Maybe they're just observing.
Yes.
That's fine. They're very welcome. Well, let's see. We'd like to consider the minutes of last meeting. And I don't know if you've all received them. I assume you have. Anybody have any additions or clarifications? Changes that we might have missed? Hearing none, we'll declare them accepted and move on. And it looks like I have the floor. No, member forum.
We do have a member forum today.
Good, good.
Okay. So members are welcome to speak during the designated member forum at Rossmore, Walnut Creek, RWC, board and committee meetings, either in person or via Zoom. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes and must clearly state their full name and Rossmore address before beginning. If speaking on behalf of another member, a signed consent form is required. To speak, members must submit a member form slip prior to the start of the forum. Instructions and slips are available at meeting entrance, the RWC board, office, and online. Please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded by attending and participating, including during the open forum. Attendees agree to and release RWC from all liability for their voice and/or likeness being recorded and broadcast for any lawful purposes without compensation. First speaker today is Mr. Richard Geisner. Giesner, my apologies. You have 2 minutes, and please state your name and Rossmore address.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Richard Giesner. I live at 3160 number 4 Ptarmigan. I am the current president of Mutual 29 and a former chair of the Aquatics Committee. I am concerned that the temporary reduction of pool hours will become permanent, as the other temporary reductions have here at Rossmore. Please do not let this happen. I would like this committee to also consider increasing the dollar pool hours for the summer months. It would be enjoyable being able to swim late during the hot weather. Securitas could lock up. What temperature is dollar set at? Has the temperature of the dollar pool been lowered? Was it lowered last year? Please post the temperatures of our 4 pools and hot tubs are set at. The new fitness center room restrictions must be lifted. The rooms allow for a quiet place to do our bar work, yoga, and meditation. Before the room restrictions were in place, I have been asked by the staff to use one of the empty rooms for my bar work when the front bar area was busy. This need of management to control members' access to our exercise room is ludicrous. You're wasting energy keeping members from utilizing empty rooms when management is allowing the pool equipment room to remain unlocked and ajar. There is a hazardous material sign on that door, and anybody can walk in at Tice. Thank you.
We have one on Zoom. Susan Hyde Bishop, please state your name and Rossmore address. You're on mute.
I'm sorry, am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay. Again, Susan Haig Bishop, 1641 Canyonwood Court. My question is regarding Pilates. I know that our instructor's been out with a hip replacement, But I was also concerned that we have never had a second Pilates instructor, because Pilates is one of the best exercises for aging people with many issues. I have scoliosis. It's been fabulous for me. We have someone with pulmonary issues. It is an excellent, excellent form of exercise for an aging community. And plus, we all pay for our classes, and that's a good income for the fitness center. So I'm concerned as to why it's not addressed more readily and that we can't get a second instructor, and when will the classes resume? Thank you.
That completes our member forum.
Okay, thank you. So it's the chair's report. I'd like to just share a few thoughts with you today, relevant to our meeting here today. First thing is change. Huge amount of literature has been written about the phenomenon of change. We had the future shock, and we learned that change was going to be coming not just more numerously, but more rapidly than ever before. And so we're involved with change. And of course, if you look at the work that's been done by people who study this to understand it, we've learned that young people do better with change than the elderly. For obvious reasons, the young people have a lot more changes to deal with as they're growing up and coming into maturity. I have a grandson who turns 18 today. That means he can be drafted all of a sudden. So his whole world has changed in that respect. He can vote too, but he can draft it. So I just wanted to say a little, share that, remind ourselves about that a little bit. I think with the changes we were undertaking, which have got a lot of comments from our fellow residents, the system was well thought out. We did some very good things that are consistent with how you ease the difficulties or the complexities of change. First of all, we made the statement that we are really in the business of making the most varied and safe and workable use of our facilities, our machines and our classes. And in order to do that, we were going to consider these changes. And that was the right thing to do. The second thing that we did, which I thought was correct, was that we gave time. It wasn't immediate. That was first published in the newspaper on February 18th. And then the March date was the initial date for these changes to take place. And I thought those were good steps. However, I think there was one thing missing. Anybody care to guess what that thing is that I think was missing? Well, I think, perhaps nobody else thinks, but I think we could have mentioned our committee. And the committee could have mentioned in two sections. One, they could have been mentioned as having heard the necessity for the changes and therefore being able to discuss and answer those issues with other residents who wanted to know why the door was locked or why they couldn't do, why their class was being changed. And then the second thing is, because there's 5 or 6 of us that are active in the facilities on a regular basis, we could have been a better catchment area, a better system to bring feedback from the other residents to this committee and to the professional staff via this meeting. So I just think it would be good if we could remember to do that. Makes us on the committee feel a little more responsible, perhaps, a little bit more motivated even to do what I was discussing by way of sharing the communication and some of the justification. Enough of that. Well, I assume that when we get the director's report and the input from Adam and from other supporters here, that we'll be able to get a good handle on that. And I meant to say a welcome to Adam. I have not been here that long, but I've been long enough to see Adam when he was hired and got to see him in the gym and introduce myself to him. So I'm very happy that you're going to be stepping up in our moment of need and filling that the responsibility.
Congratulations.
Subcommittee reports, obviously our subcommittee chair with regard to the Rossmore Fitness Journeys is
Staff
not
reports.
here yet, pardon?
You missed over the staff reports.
Oh, did I do that?
Mhm.
Pardon me. That was not intentional.
Well, I know, because it's like,
Can you believe
you're
that?
trying to let him off easy, are you in cahoots? It's his first report this
Yeah,
morning.
that's good, that's good. We
Can I-
should,
Before we move on,
I
can
got
I
out
ask
of
a
order.
question? Is it,
We might be
Out of
covering
line?
stuff in the report. but-
yeah, it's not the report. Because Barry brought up something and I feel like I hope that we have more time for discussion, and that is the role of the committee when there are policy changes or new policies,
So
like
we-
the ad hoc one that happened.
So let's,
Can we come back to that?
so we can, there's items for consideration for future agendas. That's a perfect time to say, what do you want to see on the agenda?
Okay,
and
so it
that
didn't
would be
make today's
discussion.
agenda. That didn't make today's agenda to talk
No.
about that.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
I see. I thought it was gonna be on the agenda. Okay. Still trying to understand how
Yeah.
things work here.
That's pretty much defined, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate
Well,
if there's an emergency. We could transcend that if it was an emergency, I think. Yes, go ahead.
If we move to director's report, I can at least lightly address it so we can have some light conversation.
yay.
And it would be in keeping with the agenda. How about that?
Okay.
And
Okay.
I want to support what you're asking, in part because of how you led the meeting off, saying this is our role. Because I have a comment about that. I appreciate what you said, and so, in support of what you're going to offer
Yeah.
us. Anyway, I really agree, Joan.
Let's make it
Thank you
clean.
for
We'll make
bringing
it
that up.
clean, Barry. We'll make
We
it clean.
can outline some thoughts under the heading of new business. And
It's like, actually, it would need to be, so it's real, so new business would have been agendized. So we actually have no new business. So to have a full discussion, we actually need to have something put on the agenda. I'm happy to touch upon things in my comments in the director's report and in response to some of the things in the fitness and aquatics operations report, which then we can figure out how to have a conversation on 11 for future agenda. But these are formally structured and we can't have full conversations about topics that aren't agendized.
Okay, so I think I need clarification on how to get things on the agenda and to make sure they're on the agenda. And maybe we can do that as a sidebar later.
Yeah, we could also talk about that in items for future,
Okay.
so how that works.
And let me go back a moment also. When the changes first began to be mentioned, even before they were implemented, some of us were bombarded with responses, mostly questioning why was this necessary? Not saying I don't want to do it, but why was this necessary? Or why was it necessary at this time? And there was two issues there. One was the locking of the doors and the other were the programmatic changes. And they were different and for different reasons, but they kind of got lumped together. So it was so I called up and had a telephone conversation with Madam Director here, which I have done before. And it's an opportunity. I didn't come to the office on this occasion because I'm a full-time caregiver. But I was told that there was a plan being made and that the issues were not noted. And so based upon that, I didn't think it was necessary to call a special meeting. And I think we can proceed from there.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so director's report. So let me talk, so there's something I do want to talk about before I just talk about change, which was a really lovely introduction. So first of all, so we saw the departure of Jacqueline. We're welcoming Adam to a new position. And although she's not here, I think it's worth mentioning that under Jackie's tenure, and she has a really quiet, humble way of leading, we saw a tremendous change for the good. And the residents felt it on the end of the program delivery, expansion of program. And some of the things that you don't see, but it is the reason and creates the culture for those changes to happen, is a lot of improvement of the team culture and the cohesion and investing in them, investing in just making the fitness center even more, like it was very expansive. I think it was 55 new programs like in the short time she was here. She had tremendous success. And so I wanted to mention something because this is something I would like for this committee to understand, and I think most do, but her role was remarkably different than the role that Christine had, who was an employee of Active Wellness. Christine's position was closer to the position Adam is leaving. She was a supervising trainer, essentially. So I've heard some comments and some very harsh words, like we never saw her on the floor, and basically what happened was we asked her to, why don't you schedule time just to make sure, but understand the role of the manager. It's a fitness and aquatics manager. And the magic that was done in fitness now has to be done on the aquatic side. We've had a change in leadership. There's certain shifts that need to occur. And this is now Adam's priority. Now, Adam has a little bit more of a benefit. He's a known face. People know him because he came in on a trainer. And that's a really great thing. But it can also become a limitation because people expect, well, but he's a trainer and doing that. It's an or. So it's an or because it's a new position. It's a promotion. It's wonderful because we have an opportunity to retain this talent and give him more opportunities to grow and to really establish himself for a long time as part of this community. But it means that people may see him a little less often. You will hear comments about some of the classes that, some more than others, I would say, that he's had to, stop instructing. And then as he gets things balanced, he has the ability and the talents and the credentials to pick up classes and whatnot. But just, if you can understand that the role has changed, or if you hear people not understanding, always call me. I can help you with a soundbite. I can help you with some understanding to share. But I'm just hoping we can give him a little bit more grace. It's always hard when it's the first person in a new position, right? And I think, Jackie just really kind of did so much improvement there, and I'm just hoping that we can continue that without him. That's a change, right? So the other thing, and I'm talking about this in advance of, there's a mention of it in Adam's operations report. So there are operational and administrative practices and procedures that the staff is responsible for. And what happened was not something, I know it sounds like, but what do we do? It was not in the purview for us to convene a meeting and just say, hey, we're thinking about doing this because we have people that are making money in these rooms. We have classes that are happening by instructors that aren't certified. They're just like these drop-in things. We have clubs who basically, it's not a place where clubs can rent space, but clubs are commandeering space. Clubs that already have a lot of space and won't give up time. And all the methods that we have as staff were not working. In addition, particularly in the dance studio, it's a blind room. And as is the Serenity Room, but there's a little bit of an issue with that being an actual path of travel when you have everything open in the facility as a path of travel for an escape. So when we were looking at what we could do, we wanted to make sure we could have eyes on rooms to extent as possible and an easy way to check in order to mitigate a lot of this misuse. The problem that we have with the dance studio is that we did have, people that were saying, I got injured in there, nobody, like maybe months after, I got injured in there and this happened to me and I'm gonna sue you, nobody checked on me. So when people are in that facility, there is an assumption that this is staffed. We have professionally trained staff. We have a very defined community. So we're trying to mitigate risk, and that is our job as staff to do that. So for those reasons, we figured out, well, what are the hours that we know that even if people are in the dance studio, we have enough availability of trainers that aren't locked up in personal training and classes to kind of poke in there, which is why it's open in the mornings and then after. It's like not so much the dense times or based on how staffing is. So all that being said, it was done, this is me, it was done in elegantly. This is on nobody but me. I lead the team, I'm the leader, follow the leader. It was done in elegantly. We could have communicated it better. We used some communication like the bulletins, found out people weren't receiving the bulletins. I will not argue with anyone, it was a mess, right? But I do need to say that talking about, and I would say Deborah gives a good orientation too on what the committee's role is and isn't. It might be a good time to refresh it to really understand that. Right, because we have these moments of frustration, and I think there might be other things that we can do, like Barry, like we actually will have these good conversations. I can give you the heads up beforehand, and you can kind of do something with the phone, at least so people know what's happening. So we can work a little bit differently. So even though you may not be in the line of, oh, they tend to do this, we can make sure that we just hit the pause button for a day to make sure we make the calls to all of you. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So we can make improvements on that. And I think anytime something like this happens, and you know it's, to say imperfect is being kind to myself. What we want to do is like really take a look at it and figure out what can we do to improve it. So it's implemented, it rolls out at least a bit smoother in the future. So there. So I think that's an important thing. So,
Thank you.
okay. So I think it's important. I will tell you the culture that we have and the culture that as we bring in new managers, this is a really important culture. We make mistakes, we're human. We have a lot of things going on, and it's really important in the culture that when you screw up, you're gonna learn and you're gonna grow. But make no mistake, we're human, right? We're gonna say, and so there's a very interesting kerfuffle going on where, like, I've had people in the office just wanting to beat me up, and it's like, well, who's responsible, whatever. I'm like, oh, if you need a head on a platter, please serve me up. I'm like, I screwed up. You know, and I will have that conversation. I won't use it as an excuse, but we're gonna screw up, and it's really not intentional. So this one was about mitigating risk. I will tell you, I think some of the clubs that knew that they were they had certain behaviors and they weren't responsive. They're the remedies we do have as staff. They kind of, they're kind of in the shadows, understanding that there was a big disrupt, and we've had better communications with them since. So all that to say, that was a beautiful thing about change, because sometimes when we do have to do something, it can be rather difficult. You're going to talk about the staffing for aquatics?
Yes.
Okay, so then I'll just yield the rest of my time, unless you have questions on that.
A question on that. So in terms of risk mitigation and addressing liability concerns, all of us that use the fitness center as residents or guests of residents, don't we sign a waiver saying that we will not hold the fitness center liable if we trip or whatever we do? I mean, isn't there something like that?
It does.
That protects?
And it doesn't really protect us 100%. Because the person complaining could say that there's an expectation if I'm on this facility and you have like for instance, if you're in a facility and you know it's a senior facility, I think there's a certain expectation of supervision, of oversight, whatnot. It's not a perfect solution. They help a bit, that people are in, they're aware, but anybody can say, well, I'm going to push this to the reasonable person standard. And that's why we have professions called lawyers who will, you know what I'm saying? I mean, It's a very litigious time. You would think it's at least something. We want people to know that they're acknowledging risk when they come in here.
Right.
But yet, we also have rules that we have to hold people to, that they sign to, and they are flagrant about. But still, when somebody is harmed, it doesn't mean they can't litigate, file a lawsuit, do all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot.
Well, I bring this up just, I guess, with the hope that you don't have to come down hard in the future, to try to protect people. Like, we're gonna do this for your protection, when people might not understand or understand that that's necessary.
So I'm also
right?
going to talk about so we're talking about right now, people are still up because of the dance studio. And I am aware there are individuals that like that space. So I'm not,
Right.
what I'm not doing is invalidating, for instance, this gentleman, that may have been his space at a particular time, which is now closed, right? the majority of the misuse in that room was during the time that we have closed it off, because it was too much for us to kind of go in there. Yeah. So yes, there's risk. You had people running private businesses in there. Okay, so you did have that going in there. You had clubs that are not authorized, like in other spaces, but there was one that was in that room. So this was kind of, it was a lot going on, and it needed to be reset so we could figure out what we could open. Now, could we evaluate it as we go on? I think this is one of Adam's superpowers. There may be a way to come up with a rotation where there's a check-in or some other way to check into the room. But for now, this works, and it's a good reset for what we can do.
Yeah, I think go ahead. I've had a chance already.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Anne. I mean, I feel like you are really, in my mind, so incredibly competent. I mean, I've seen this since I met
I
you.
appreciate that, because I know I fell short, because you're a communication guru. So it's like,
Well,
no, do you know what I mean? So
oddly,
yeah.
I was going to mention that, but
Yes, I
I
appreciate that. But
you know, I think the world of you in terms of your competence and just how elegantly you have moved forward with your position. And Adam, you know, I welcome you too. Adam and I had it's just a lovely, I don't know if you remember, because I looked a little different when I saw you, because I think I had just gotten out of the pool, but you know, I really appreciated, I asked you about the lifeguards and the shortening of the hours in Tice, because I too am very concerned about that. And your answer was great. You know, you said, you know, we're recruiting as much as we can, and you listened when I said, you know, I'm really concerned about this because people work, and, you know, anyway, so that's how I feel about, you know, just about the landscape that you so beautifully painted. Here is my concern. My concern is not so much our role, although I really think that's a great idea to review it. It is the assumption, Barry, I think, that you were making when you were talking about what we could have done as a committee. I personally, now maybe I missed the memo, I had no idea that these changes were going to happen. And so I felt pretty blindsided by them. People know that I'm on the Aquatics and Fitness Committee, so people were asking me. I had no idea what to say. So that gets, unfortunately, back to communication.
can I ask a question?
Of course.
Because, and actually, it's the second time we've sent a different issue. We've sent out through bulletins. Are anybody here signed up for them? And have you not received anything?
No.
Like, they're push emails, and most of the members at one time when they started coming to the fitness center has signed up, because we were using those quite a lot.
I got one from you in February, but
That was the last one.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
wonder if-
something is
Something is,
amiss here.
I was
Yeah, I did not
unaware
receive
of that.
anything.
Okay, so Joan didn't
Okay.
receive anything?
yeah, and the two women that we most recently met with did not know about that vehicle, which was interesting,
Yeah.
actually, because one was married.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah, okay, we gotta, so we are trying to follow up with. Yeah, so all that being said, so communications, they are the bane of our existence. This has been the issue with,
Yeah.
like, with every program that's going on. And so to that, okay, I can't fix what just happened. What I can tell you is communications portal, what did she say, May 15th? Everything should be launched. There's a new
I
website and a
believe so.
new portal.
You made reference to this.
The portal is kind of the
Mayor
communication
Jan.
conduit, and I suspect something may have been broken in a migration, I don't know.
Possibly.
But we're gonna check that and make like, we really don't anticipate anything, you know, happening, but certainly, like, when we reopen Hillside, we're just gonna go Nixle, right? When we change the hours for the pools, we're just gonna use Nixle, even though we've been told not to.
Oh.
Because it's supposed to be just for emergency, right? But I think that's gonna be the sure thing right now for the notifications of what we do know we're gonna have to notify with a short turnaround. But we're gonna find out that solution, because really what our plan is to opt everybody in and have them opt out.
Yeah.
Good.
Certainly with the Vermont systems, which is the system that we use for, like, once you sign up for classes and whatnot, I mean, everybody basically is going into the system. So they'll know when we have new classes and whatnot, and it's like, I
It'll
don't,
be a
I don't
lot
do
easier.
classes, take me off that list, they'll be able to opt out. It's gonna be much easier to do that.
So,
Great ways from cleaning that up.
sure, and just one last kind of important comment about this. You know, everybody here probably knows we have a lot of contention in the community about what's happening with Gateway. And, you know, so obviously this is a very different situation, but I think the way it relates is I think it's really important to manage the impression around, are the staff listening to the residents? And I think I really think that's important in the big picture. And I also think here's a case where, you know, we're small change on the big picture front, if you will, except that we have more than half the residents using these services of fitness and aquatics, as we know from all the numbers. So this is a big issue for people, the fitness and aquatics. So I think some way of making sure that we know on the committee not only what's happening, but why it's happening. And I don't mean in detail, but enough so that we understand what's going on and why it's going on. Because, you know, again, being blindsided is a pretty bad position to be in when, you know, when we're on the team here, and it would be really good to know, you know, what we can know about it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'll just add that to get our thinking caps on too, another big change, which will be hopefully positive, will be when the pickleball courts are finally finished, which is not that far down the road. That'll be a big change on the availability of the gym for big, large groups. And those large groups put a lot of people in there. And we need to talk more about that, and we've already raised it. Make sure that comes up next time, discussing how we can assure that the instructors in those large groups meet certain minimums. You don't want them, we won't evaluate their knowledge of the activity, but the way they relate to people and the way they are there necessities for them to project their voices to be heard in the back corner of the room, and so on and so on. I've had a lot of experience with that, so when the time comes out, I'll be very happy to lead the discussion about that. Okay, any other observations? Yeah.
No, it's
Your
Adam.
turn now.
It's Adam's turn.
Yep.
All right.
Because he can give you some insight on the aquatics issues.
So we'll starting off, staffing updates. So farewells and promotions, as you all may be aware. Hideo Ruth is retired after 30 plus years with Aquatics. So stepping in for her place, Ava Cardenas is the acting aquatic coordinator as of February. Jackie Carlisle, as Ann just told us, departed March 2nd, and I have taken on the role as the fitness and aquatics manager. We have a new hire, Amy Ropog, advanced yoga instructor. She will be adding classes within the next reporting period. And then for recruitments, right now we are very heavily recruiting lifeguards. So we've had a few interviews with those. On to programming updates. New and additional classes. Stretch and Strength is added on Mondays at 4 p.m. We have been talking about workshops and events for the calendar year of 2026. So returning, we've got Camp Rossmore. That was a big hit last year. We've got the knee health workshop, Getting Up From a Fall, as returning. Those were very well received last year, so we're bringing them back. Some future new items coming in are Winter Workout Challenge and the Turkey Burn. So look out for those. Online signups and capacity.
What's the turkey burn? I just like it.
Turkey Burn is like a post-Thanksgiving workout too, because a lot of people eat a lot on Thanksgiving. So just a way to burn a few extra calories and have some fun. For online signups and capacity. So water aerobics moved to online signups just as we've had all of our other classes kind of move to in the last couple of years. So now participants are expected to sign up for the water aerobics class in the same fashion they would any other class. 1 week ahead at 8 a.m. they can sign up. The shallow water classes are limited to 40 participants and deep water is limited to 18. On to class adjustments. So we redistributed some of the classes to reduce overcrowding. We had some issues in the parking lot. So this was made to improve safety and traffic flow in the parking lot. And on to, operations. So talking about the rooms locking. So Anna talked to us about that. Conducted the review, and then as Ann gave us the updates, the aerobics and gymnasium are available for individual exercise when they're not in use. Serenity Studio as well, and then the limited hours in the dance studio, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 5:30 to 9 p.m. For facility usage, we had 290 new clients in January and February. Mondays continue to be the busiest day of the week, and 9 a.m. continues to regularly be the busiest time of day. Onto orientations and personal training in January and February, we had a high of 717 total sessions in January and a little bit lower in February. Visits by day of week, you can see in January had a high of 949 near the end of the month. Yeah,
That's what we were talking about as well.
I think the resolutioners came in heavily this year.
They did.
So just over 24,000 total visits in January with a high of 949 in one day and a low of 575 just the day before, kind of in a month. And then in February, kind of following that same pattern, a little over 21,000 total visits in February, 947 high and 550 low. If you go down a little bit, you can see still that peak high of 9 a.m., a little over 3,000 total visits, and then kind of peters off as we near the end of the day there, following that same pattern into February.
Let me ask a question of Adam. I don't know how long exactly it's been that in order to help with some of the parking issues and how many people in the gym, are you noticing any changes in the parking lot or parking problems we've had?
Yeah, so I've received a few comments of people saying, you know, it's much better, the parking situation now. And
That's great.
I used, you know, my water aerobics classes were a little later on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I would come in a little later to accommodate for that, right? And I've noticed as I'm walking out into the parking lot now that in that 11 to 12 o'clock time slot, there's parking available, which is a big improvement.
Wow. That's great.
I have a question. I think it's for you, or maybe it's for you. We'll see. Is the plan to reopen the Tice Creek pool to its normal hours when you have enough lifeguards?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it was, we actually put it in the newspapers because the staff. So the issue with pools, we have to staff them appropriately, the ones that are staffed, the ones that you don't need to when they're not open to the public. We don't have to, you know, we don't have to staff them, but then we still have a rotation of the maintenance of them. So we really have been putting a lot of work into recruit. I mean, Adam's been doing a really good job with that. I know we have interviews that are set up, so hopefully we'll be able to correct that fairly soon.
Good, good. Glad to hear that.
Yeah, there's no plan to make permanent reductions at all.
Thank you.
And also, I think it was the woman who called online, one of the things, we usually don't talk about when we have someone in background, but we do have a bar instructor in background. Like a potential hire.
Yeah.
We don't say that because sometimes it jinxes it, but we're pretty sure it will.
Great.
But they may not be able to start till after April. Because of their current
Well, that is exciting.
Yeah.
Because I know we've talked about that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Difficulties in finding people.
Yeah.
Or difficulties in finding people with special skills and experience. Any more to add to that? I'd like to ask a question about Kelsey, my companion here. I see it says Senior Manager Resident Services.
Yeah.
And I know you were involved in planning with Jackie to bring about these changes and you come up with a solution. I just want to know a little bit about how you fit into the team, the administrative team.
So my role is I'm responsible for a portion of the community services department. So my direct areas are going to be the recreation, transportation, fitness and aquatics, and custodial. So this is one subsection of my responsibilities.
And someday soon, I won't be here unless I step in it.
You're never
I won't be
leaving.
here. Yeah.
You are here
It's
forever.
being groomed.
You are here forever.
How about that?
So,
Good, okay, that clarifies my, I met you quite a while ago, but then I saw your name here, over there, and I wasn't sure how it all worked. So you got a broader responsibility.
correct.
I put you, this is a part.
Correct.
And I'm sure the needs would change, and in certain seasons, the needs would be more involved in our area than the other areas you take in, vice versa.
And also she's another resource, right? So she's, so when you hear things, if for some reason, like you get an out of office from me,
I was wondering.
call Kelsey or just send something to both of us if you really want a response on something, because I want to say, like, I did receive calls from at least 3 people, like about, hey, what's happening, right? And that was great. And we always, we're here for you. I know it didn't seem like it in that last exercise, but we really are here to serve and support you. So, like, please always call. Like Mary Lou brought somebody to meet with us the other day, and that was wonderful. And we're really here to help provide information.
Thank you.
On the, oh, you got a hand up.
I have a question for Adam on the aquatic staffing, if I may. So, Hideo retired, right? And then it seemed shortly after that, the hours changed for the pools. Well, we don't have Hillside open yet, but the Tice hours changed, right? And I'm wondering if that was a direct result of her going, or was there other changes or
We had
shortages, staffing shortages that caused that to happen?
No, we had, so Hideo retired. And we
Yes.
knew that was coming. What we didn't know is that two different staff are out on medical.
Okay,
And then there was a third on medical that decided not to return. So sometimes when that stuff
I see.
happens, you can't fill if it's an unknown, right? So the 2 that are on, we expect the other 2 to be back, but the other one then decided to part ways. So we're like,
okay,
Yeah.
okay, I got it, thank you.
Yeah, so that kind of, it was the perfect storm, and it was right before all the pools open. So it gets a little dicey.
All right, thank you.
Just one question I wanted to ask about where we were. I got a lot of correspondence from one resident about were we doing things inconsistent with the fire code? And
That's a good question.
I know that's something quite resolute in our state and in our community, because a huge amount of our insurance has to do with what are we doing to observe good fire code?
Yes. So, fun fact, I did consult with the fire marshal.
Good.
Yeah. And so, I will tell you, the signage in the building is very funny, and I think people noticed it once they were trying to say, oh, because then you see it. The signs that matter are the illuminated green ones. And if we locked a door with an illuminated green one, we would have had to hide the sign, but we would not have, but we could have locked it still. And so we called them, we knew it was gonna be temporary, and they said, just make sure if you have the illuminated ones, he goes, do you have the green or the red? They're the green, because just, so we don't have that. So even at the aerobics studio, it talks about that door having to stay unlocked, because you don't want to, if you have full activity in the facility, you just want to have that as a pass-through, right? It's a route to the green lighted sign at the corner.
Yeah.
To the, to the back of it, right? So we were within the fire code. So it was the guy that worked on the building too, so.
Any other questions about that? We move down the line here a little bit. Publicity. Mary Lou's not here. Gary, are you working with her on the promotional program for identifying people on their journey, fitness journey? No, it's not. So she didn't give you any message to share. Well, the newspaper yesterday has another candidate. I don't know this person, but I'm happy to see it's a female, Vina Kaushal. I don't know how it's pronounced, but she's an average person, has had some problems and has undertaken a system and seen great improvements. And so that was initiated in order to motivate others and to respect the people that put their minds to it and had some success with their efforts. So we can go beyond that unless there's anything else involved in publicity. Okay. So, unfinished business. We've dealt with a lot of
There's-
unfinished business.
So, so because there's nothing on the agenda,
Yeah.
I think people want
We
to
do.
talk about what they want to put on next.
Yeah, that is important, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
items for consideration for future agendas. Let me just begin and then I'll give the floor up. I wanted to be sure we do get back to talking about the groups that are led by members of clubs and what the implications of that are.
Say that again.
Groups that are being led by club members designated as
Okay.
leaders or instructors. We don't choose, and I don't know how much we know about it. Recently, for example, I met someone who goes to and is involved with the Tai Chi classes. He said there are 4 of those classes. I said, well, how many instructors are there? He said there are 5. Well, I know the one that I talked to, but I don't know the other 4. And I'd just like to know, we are in a very litigious time and it's a litigious part of the country. So we have to be thoughtful about that.
So I will just let everyone know this, because this is an easy thing, and I'll make sure it's on the agenda. We can
Okay.
go through it, just since it's here.
Good.
So we get people asking to form clubs all the time, this, that, and the other. Like we had people saying, we want to do our bar club, blah, blah, blah. And the
Yes.
reason we can't do that, right? So again, when you're in a fitness facility, there's an assumption that you're going in and programs are led by professionally certified, credentialed staff and whatnot. All the clubs that are there, they were there certainly I think maybe one was added when Active Wellness was here under Christine. And I don't know how long she was here. So she was the Active Wellness manager of the facility. So, but there's been a moratorium even since I came here, which was only 3 years ago, but about not adding clubs for that reason. Because we have no authority over clubs, their activities, what they do. And in that facility, we really want them to, it would be better that they kind of, phase out in their own time. And then we have to really figure out what uses would be, if not instructor-led,
Yes.
because we would have more time and space to do contract instructors or kind of the part-time ones that we have now. We'd have more space and more rooms to do like programs. But there was some type of grandfathering in by a prior board. So.
Kind of like a moving target. You have to be thinking ahead.
Yeah.
Making adjustments. As
Yeah, and there are concerns like we don't know the
And with the
credentials or
when you lump in the
qualifications.
Qigong classes, we are offering services to a large number of our residents. So it's successful in that sense. And I think from what I can observe, I haven't done a head count, but they're pretty serious about coming to their class. I don't see much gap in the space when I look in.
Well, they're really
window.
well attended, yeah,
Yeah, so.
because they give us counts, don't they, still of their
They
classes.
probably do. I don't see them, but they probably do. Okay. So are there any more issues that need to be on that agenda for our next time around?
So I put, like, from here in the conversation, review roles and discuss how to improve communications, even when we need to do something, or there's gonna be a change before it goes out, that type of thing.
And that would be very appropriate.
And we can just start a list of ideas and
Okay.
have a conversation around it.
Sounds good.
I would like to add something. Preventive maintenance of our pool facilities to ensure timely opening and reopenings on a regular basis.
So I will tell you why I would rather not discuss that here. So operations are operations, and we'll have people say things like, well, why don't you stock all the parts? Well, you could never stock all the parts for a pool. And so what happened at Hillside was it was like one component of something which is up for scheduled replacement in a couple of years. We're going to advance that, replace the whole thing, probably the end of this year, but we also got that part. So when you have pools you can't predict, and all the pools they're just older. So when things break, we don't like to fix just the part, but in this one, we're gonna fix the part, but we don't wanna wait, the lead time on getting this other piece of equipment was really long.
I think the question that I have and that other people have expressed to me is, could the delay have been prevented? In other words, when was the mechanical failure discovered?
It was up and
and-
running for 2 weeks before it broke. I mean, so we don't just turn it on the night before.
See, we don't know
Yeah,
that,
so
so
I mean-
I raised that question
Yeah.
because we don't know, right? And we know that Hideo recently retired, so when there's a vacuum of information, or we just haven't been privy, or we're not educated yet on some of these things, people fill that in with speculation, right? So there was speculation that, oh, maybe someone dropped the ball and they didn't really, start preparing to open the pool in time. And then people get upset because they don't have the background. They don't know that you had done the preparation and then discovered on March 1st
Right.
that there's an issue, right? So again, it comes back to communication.
I would just say as a point of order, let's say that this is additional discussion off of the operations report when we're talking about, is that kind of in keeping with it? Because I don't want to have a full conversation
Yeah.
about it.
But I'm bringing it up
Yeah,
for an
and I
agenda item,
appreciate it,
basically.
But I will say operationally, what we do want to operationally, every day that goes right, it would be very difficult for us to prep you where we are in anything operationally for that one thing that goes wrong. Do you know what I'm saying? So there are actually things that we are actually operating and keeping running and juggling every day.
Right,
So when it left, the thought doesn't come into our mind, we're gonna be defensive and just saying, before anybody gets any ideas, we did turn it on 2 weeks ahead and we move really fast. Every staff person is overloaded with things. So
I'm sure that's the
honestly,
case.
pick up
I'm
the phone
sure.
and call me. I heard a rumor, right? Because if there's a rumor out there, in real time, I could just say, oh, that's really easy peasy, and we can start socializing, this is what it is. Or if it gets big enough, we can ask Rossmore News to do an article. But it's difficult to kind of anticipate, what are we gonna talk about that we're doing operationally? Because it's a million different things. I mean, you talk to the facilities crew that's responsible for the types of equipment, they're in there testing all the time,
right.
the different systems.
I guess I'm trying to represent the people that wait for months, for Hillside to reopen. They're not using the other facilities. It's really important to them. And so I can swim, at Tice, I can swim
Yeah.
anywhere. It's not a problem. But, so I feel like I'm representing them in
No, I
saying
appreciate
this,
that.
and that I know you can't anticipate, but, I don't know, maybe there's a need for a little more transparency in terms of, leading up to the reopening or something. I don't know. I don't know what I'm really asking for. But I think I'd like a little more discussion on it, that's all. So maybe we put it on the agenda for next time.
What would you want the discussion item to be?
Or maybe it can be handled another way, but I'd like to understand better our operational maintenance, just to have confidence, I guess, that
Okay, so one of the things, when people want something on an agenda, just what the process is, I kind of need to, certain things I need to talk about with Jeff.
okay,
Because it would be, what you're asking
yeah,
is a mountain of work to actually justify what every one of us does. Like, why not,
I think I'm asking for that.
But you are.
No,
But you are,
I
because
don't think I am.
Because it's a reaction to, oh my God, this wasn't operating and we need all this stuff. So it's like, so all the stuff that we're prepping all over the valley does impact that, because that's the one thing, 1,000 things that failed.
And I understand, I appreciate
We have
that.
failures all the time. Right? So, what we have to be very careful about in this committee, the oversight isn't about it's not about operations. If there was something reckless, negligent, whatever, you may even have questions about that. There was nothing. These are old facilities, and the team that we have does extraordinary work, and they put in so much to try to get these things up and prepped. And there's no sound louder than the breaking heart of the facilities team when they realize, oh my God, this is broke. And then you
Yeah.
find out, well, the right thing to do is to replace the whole comptroller. It's not just the comptroller, it's the whole system there. But to do that, it's a lead time of several months. So it's like, so what can we do if we just get this part and we really had to chase it down?
So maybe what it comes down to, again, is communication, is making sure that the committee can be utilized to help communicate when there is unforeseen failure.
Let me, I will have to talk to Jeff about, it because I do appreciate that. But we're getting into a very odd area, which is adding a certain type of work. Because again, if all these questions are out and the first time we're hearing it here, like there's an assumption it has something to do with Hideo, the way we do that, we'll do something in the paper. Because there's not a guarantee, because I let the committee know that everybody's gonna hear about it. So for us, we need to say, we pointed to the formal communication piece that most people listen to. And there's gonna be a way to push stuff out differently when you do it, but communication here does have to be organized. And we have to be very, very careful on what we decide is worthy of doing this, that, the other thing.
Yeah.
Or that work we're trying to do to keep the eyes on all these things becomes second to, did we communicate everything? I understand the frustration, but I will tell you, sometimes that communication, well, why are you doing this? I have an engineer friend that at some point, like you said something about, like, we wanted to make sure it wasn't, I don't know, an oversight or like whatever that word was. We shouldn't it sounds like you want us to justify or defend that we're doing the work. And that's a little problematic.
Joni,
No, it's not that, so.
I just heard you use the word trust. You want to be able to trust that the staff here are doing what they're supposed to do. Excuse me about my voice, but, and I love that you said twice at least, and that give her a call. If we hear a rumor or we hear something, we need some information, we can start sharing what we understand to be true, that they can come to us on the committee and offer support, because we're getting support from them and understanding of what's going on. So call Ann.
Yeah,
Or email, I think
okay.
you shot me, you'll shoot me emails and
I can do more,
really
I
look
can
at my
do more of
committee
that,
members.
because I tend to go through channels, and I think this is probably just my training. So I'll reach out to Barry, who's the chair.
Yeah.
Or, I'll ask the head lifeguard who, I will do that, or I'll ask Brian, who's got his finger on the pulse here. He's, been involved with aquatics. But when we don't know, right, and people ask us and we say we have no idea, I guess I would like to, as a committee member, like to be able to offer a little more, because I am on the committee, right?
But understand.
But maybe I can't, maybe that's the reality, I
But
can't.
understand, it's not the committee's role to explain operations.
I don't have to
Internal
explain it.
operations. But if you go to the staff, and I would
Yeah.
say start with a staff member, start with a manager. So you have Adam on site, and Adam will make sure, like with pools, Ava. And I will say, those two are going to give you the most comprehensive information. I gotta tell you something, one of the funniest things is, we get the weirdest thing coming back to us, well, a lifeguard told me. And I wanna know what those conversations are, because I can't, but we get this really thing which is so far off of truth. And I think sometimes they get pressured and they're not saying it, they're just saying, yeah, sure, because they gotta sweep the water off the deck or something like that. I can't imagine what happens. But really, your conduits, if you feel like, don't feel like you're interrupting me by, anyway, don't feel that you're interrupting Kelsey or Adam, but like, we are here to give you that information. Because if you see something, and we do this a lot, if you see something, say something, like at the time it happens, we're happy to share that information. But so many things are happening daily. We are firefighters, like we're putting out fires constantly all over the place. And we have, the scopes are huge that each of us are responsible for.
Right.
And so again, there's like a million things.
Yeah.
And so what you're talking about, I can talk about the pools, but that facilities team is responsible for every component of every facility in the valley, right? And and there's always a competing interests and priorities. They do the most amazing job. And they're all very skilled contractors in multiple disciplines, and we just have this really great team right now. So again, like to talk, like a lot of what they have to do is like, there's a lot of preventative stuff scheduled, and we have to do the pools, and that's like a real priority. And in the middle of that, they're also doing like tyranny of the urgent on the other stuff that's happening on all of our aging facilities. So that's why if you want me to present that, I can't use my favorite Parks and Rec quote because it's a Ron Swanson. You got to hold every time. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't do justice to this competing. Every day is competing priorities and triaging everything. But for the pools, they really are. They're there. There's one guy that's there every day at all the pools.
Yeah,
every day.
I think if I had known, or if maybe more of us had known that the pre-opening process starts a month before, even just that, you know.
But that's a simple phone call. Do you know what I mean? Because again, we're not going to hear about it unless something breaks.
True.
I mean, that's
all right.
Moving ahead.
Point taken.
And pools have a
Point
million,
taken.
because pools have a
Okay.
million parts. There's a million different pieces of equipment in the fitness center. We have a contractor with a repair service, but we don't know their availability when we call them,
That's
right?
right.
So,
Sometimes they're out of use for several weeks.
Yeah.
It's not unlivable, but it's noticeable if you pay attention.
yes.
Let me put that aside for a minute. Brian, if you decide to go ahead with some stroke analysis, which you did before and it was very successful, how would that fit into the circumstances we've talked about? Would you do it through the swimming club?
I was in the process of talking with Jackie.
Oh, well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and we didn't get very far with the planning. So I would probably want to
Sure.
hook up with Adam and work something like that out. Last time we did it through the Swimmers Forum Club.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But that's kind of dissolved as a result. And I thought maybe we could do something through this group or whatever, but basically do like a simple, what I talked to Jackie about was doing a pop-up kind of clinic.
Yeah.
Maybe doing it over 3 or 4 weeks. What we did was Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock in Tice, we got 2 lanes reserved, and we'd start with a demo, and then we'd get people in the water and do some analysis with them. But it was mainly an education program, and we were focused on minimizing injury and risk in swimming, and having people use their strokes the best way they could in terms of physical limitations people encounter as we age. You can't always look like, a fabulous swimmer, but you can get work done, and you can also minimize injury.
Yeah.
And that was the focus, and we had good success. We had about 30 people that would come to every session. We'd make it ahead of time so we could get people that wanted to be in the water, and then we had a substantial group of people who just wanted to watch.
Yeah.
And absorb some learning there. And then we would do a Q&A at the end when we'd vacate the pool and kind of talk at the end and talk for however long it took to process people's questions. So.
Well, the other thing I'd just say, and I'm gonna end this, just a moment.
I didn't know what part of this is for the future agenda. I'm writing this down.
Yeah, I'm trying to determine whether that proposition that Brian was describing, having done it before, how it fits into what we're talking about here.
The best thing to do is Brian should talk with Adam about how to do that, because it should be club sponsored.
I think that's in
Yeah.
line, yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
I just want to say that one of the benefits of such a thing, being able to offer that, is that if a person can move through the water more efficiently, they're more likely to see improvements and be motivated to continue with it.
Yeah.
The opposite works too. If you don't move very efficiently, you say, well, screw this.
Yeah.
I'm going to get on the stationary walk, stepper over here.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Deborah, since you're here, may I assume that you provide the documents about the charter for the committee and so on to each of the new members? Did Gary get one, for example, when he joined our committee?
So I did do a presentation
Yes,
in July for the parliamentarian procedure and the charter for the committee. I'd be happy to either do that as a presentation again, or I can email the materials out to everyone. It's pretty easy to read over, but
Well,
if you
I
have
kept
any
mine here.
questions.
I'm an old academic, so I'm diligent about that. And I was going through it today, and so it's very complex in terms of the detail that's there. So it would be good for all of us to look at that sometime.
So
I
would
don't
you
think you have to
prefer
do
me
it.
to present it, or did you want me just to distribute the information?
I think if they wanted to talk about their roles and responsibility, it could be a good lead off for you to present it and then maybe have a discussion after that. Or, questions in response to what the charter is.
Absolutely.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that then. Yeah. Any other thoughts that need to be noted for our future? Well, let me say a few thoughts that I have before we conclude here and adjourn. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 14th, 2026, 2 months' time. I've been a strong supporter of the idea of getting gray-haired people out of Washington, D.C. in Congress. And so I'm going to live up to my standards here. And that's going to be the last time that I chair the membership here. I would like to keep my 3rd year of eligibility, but not be the chair, just so that it's shared with somebody else. Not that I don't want to monopolize it, and I don't want to walk away from it, but I think it would be appropriate to share with somebody else. So as of the 14th, that'll be my last function as chair. I will continue as a member. And having said that, time for us to adjourn. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, China, for doing the good work over there.
Thank you.